Hello everybody, welcome back to Cinematic Venom. I'm Kickass. Now we all know that my next feature film is currently in the works. Ready to stumble? The rights to the franchise were soon sold to Canon Films, but Christopher Reeve was done with the entire franchise and refused to come back, much like he did before. But he did eventually cave, however, but only if the studio funded his own film Street Smart, which they agreed, and he even helped write the story. Yeah, this entire story was thought up by Reeve and he was incredibly proud of it.
I came up with the storyline, which I then told to the Canon people and told to Warner Brothers, and they liked it. I wanted it to be a movie that I could really get involved in, that I'd feel motivated and excited about and really want to be in, because there's nothing worse than an actor who doesn't care, who's doing it for the money. You can see it in his face, the eyes are glazed over, and I don't want to rip off the public. We need a good reason to make a movie, and if a good reason comes out, then we'll do it. If not, we won't.
Yep. He thought this was a story worth telling, and he did it for all of you. I wish he hadn't.
Thanks.
He openly slammed the third Superman film, but seemed so confident in this one.
Yeah, I was into it except for part 3. I mean, I think part 3, I thought, I had nothing to do with part 3 other than, when they wrote the script, I showed up and gave it my all.
So much so, he was even open to doing a part 5 afterwards.
So you have left the door open, I guess, this time a little more for 5 if there's some reason to do it creatively or otherwise.
Exactly.
But amazingly, despite now being part of the writing team, Christopher Reeve later deeply regretted his involvement in this, calling it an entire catastrophe from start to finish and a huge blow to his career. Weirdly, despite his confidence during filming and the immediate aftermath of its release,
Superman 4.
Look forward to it.
Jon Cryer claimed he was pulled aside by Reeve at one point on set and actually told bluntly that the movie was going to be terrible. So why'd you even write it then? Hey, shut up!
Jeez, what a jerk.
But Reeve actually had a weak-ass defense, blaming the film's entire failure not on the script, but on the budget instead. Or the script was also pants.
Yeah, you're right.
Despite this, the studio themselves actually expected a hit on their hands. They specifically cut out a load of scenes to make the film shorter so the cinemas worldwide could fit in more screenings and therefore make them more money.
Somebody has to be an optimist.
In fact, there were so many scenes cut out, often leading to inconsistencies and plot holes, that the studio even considered using the deleted footage for a possible 5th movie afterwards. In fact, they even had a treatment idea for part 5 where Superman dies and gets resurrected. But this actually predates the famous Death of Superman comic book. Superman 4 came up with the death of Superman before the comic books.
Sure, okay.
Originally, Richard Donner, who directed part 1 and was unfairly fired during part 2, despite at that point wanting to make 4 films, was approached to direct this one, but for some reason refused. Can't imagine why. Richard Lester, who took over from Donner in part 2, was then approached but also refused. And guess what? Wes Craven was actually signed on to direct Superman 4 The Quest for Peace, but he backed out after he and Reeve just couldn't get along during filming. In fact, once Sidney J. Fury took on the job, he too couldn't get along with the lead star. Margot Kidder claimed she disliked Reeve too, as he had a massively inflated ego at this point. But Jon Cryer personally said he had a blast working with the guy, so it's a mixed bag. And the movie originally had a budget of $36 million, but the studio began to struggle financially and slashed it down to just $17 million, which is a quarter of the budget of the first 3. And due to the low budget, probably blowing it all on casting, they cut corners, constantly reusing the exact same special effects, including this one green screen of Superman over and over, and they couldn't even afford to shoot in New York City. They shot most of the movie's exterior scenes in Milton Keynes, England. I can get to Milton Keynes from my house in about half an hour. Not only did Reeve consider this a huge blow to his career, but due to this film's failure, it was the reason the original Spider-Man film back then was suddenly cancelled, fearing its inevitably duplicated bomb. The guy who played the main villain, Mark Pillow, would never appear in a feature film ever again. The movie is often cited as one of the worst, if not the worst, comic book movies in history. It stopped Superman films being made for 19 years, and it was nominated for 2 Razzies for Worst Supporting Actress from Mariel Hemingway and Worst Visual Effects. effects. In fact, the cast claimed the movie wasn't even finished. Production went horribly and the studio basically ran out of money, so they ultimately released an unfinished film. So we open with the cheapest opening credits in history. I'm not even sure how they managed to mess up this early. First shot and they couldn't even afford decent looking text. Anyway, some astronauts are in trouble, but hey, it's a good thing Superman is taking his usual midnight fly around space and just so happens to be in the area to save the day. Yeah, a lot of people bitched about it because Superman speaks in space and his cape flaps around. Even though Superman and Zod, Ursa and Non, do all of that in Superman 1 and 2. No one cared then. Ha! Anyway, Clark is now in Smallville where he reveals he has a green crystal. After that other one in Superman 2 that was supposed to be the last one. This crystal will become really important later, but some have defended this, saying that in certain cuts of Superman 2, he turns the world backwards to change some plot inconsistencies, meaning that there could be more crystals. What kind of movie is a sequel to a director's cut and not the theatrical cut? This movie sucks.
Thank you.
Clark is basically relayed a message from his real mother in Krypton, but she talks as if he's only just arrived.
By now, Kal-El, you are entering the atmosphere of the planet known as Earth.
Why is he only just now listening to this? We're 4 films in.
I know you're all choked up, kind of overcome with joy.
So after Clark hides this very important Kryptonian crystal inside his jacket pocket so well, he's visited by a man who wants to buy his father's farm but use the property for other causes, which Clark refuses. This subplot goes nowhere. I mean, there was a deleted scene where Clark actually visits the grave of his human parents.
Do you know that in a Superman film, not one person dies? Not one person dies.
And then this happens, and then later on in the film he was going to come back and basically agree to sell the farm, but it still doesn't connect to anything else in the film. It's still entirely pointless even with those, so even without them it's even more pointless. Why is it here?
Boring.
So after Christopher Reeve continues to prove why he's the best Superman by making a complete fool of himself before sending the baseball to orbit, we cut to a prison to see our good old buddy Lex Luthor, once again played by Gene Hackman, who clearly needed the cash, and he's soon joined by his nephew Lenny, played by John Cryer himself. My god, look at that car, those trousers, that jacket and those shoes. Who would have expected him to grow up to be an icon? And I'm actually in the minority because I absolutely love Lenny.
Geez, where the hell is this and how the hell do I get to Cedar City?
You're on the wrong side of the state, boy. No chance.
Oh, no.
Come on, he is hilarious!
Launch.
All right.
Well, they're dead. Or they would be if this movie made any goddamn sense.
Do you know that in a Superman film, not one person dies? Not one person dies.
Oh, and it's a good thing the prison only has 2 guards so they can escape.
Lenny, you pathetic product of the public school system. Your Uncle Lex has had nothing on his awesome mind since he's been incarcerated except one thing. Destroy Superman!
Maybe get another hobby, because you're clearly not that very good at this one. Anyway, we cut to Metropolis subway, which amazingly looks an awful lot like the London Underground, where the driver has a heart attack.
Do you know that in a Superman film, not one person dies? Not one person dies.
Leading to them speeding along before the Man of Steel makes the save and somehow cuts off the electricity.
One moment. I'd like all the people back there to know that our subway system is still the safest and most reliable means of public transportation.
I thought flying was.
I certainly hope this little incident hasn't put you off flying, miss. Statistically speaking, of course, it's still the safest way to travel.
I mean, despite the budget, I do kind of like this rescue scene. I mean, it's not great, but it's the best we're gonna get. It's not awful, so I'll take it. Meanwhile, we cut to another subplot where the Daily Planet is being sold and Clark immediately has the hots for the big rich boss's daughter, Lacey. So, where's Lana? I mean, she was one of the vital parts of Superman 3. And it was very impactful because she actually loved Clark and not Superman. So it was probably the best part of Superman 3. She even got a job at the end at the Daily Planet. This huge thing. But nope. She's nowhere in this film. In fact, this film doesn't in any way reference her or any of Superman 3's events. I'm not even sure if this retcons Part 3 either because they don't make it clear. At least in Superman Returns they acknowledge it, but here, I don't even know. But even then, why retcon it? It would have been awesome to continue the love story and then maybe even have Lois fall for Clark in this and form a love triangle. And I can't find any evidence of the studio approaching the actress to come back either. They just legitimately made a 4th installment without even considering her. Why cut her out, you morons?
Abominable.
Basically, this guy's a douche who is more concerned about making money and selling papers than actually telling the public the truth.
Excuse me, Mr. Warfield, but the world isn't really on the brink. Isn't that headline irresponsible?
Maybe, but it'll sell a hell of a lot of newspapers.
Superman 4 invented clickbait.
All trips are cancelled.
You mean my trip to Paris is canceled?
You mean I have to be in more of this movie? In a weird decision, Lois actually becomes jealous of Lacey's attraction to Clark, despite never having feelings for him before. This will actually lead to what I think is quite an interesting choice, so we'll come back to this later.
Hopefully very terrible.
But hey, why not give us another subplot? We have a political war crisis on our hands.
Now I know you're all upset by the crisis.
They're kids! Who would give a shit? Oh well, maybe Lex and Lenny have something smart to say.
Do you know what I can do with a single strand of Superman's hair?
You can make a toupee that flies.
I love Lenny. So Superman, for some reason, has a single strand of hair in a museum that can hold an entire ton of weight. Definitely his pube.
I believe that will do.
So bear in mind that Lex is supposed to be the world's greatest criminal mastermind.
Lex Luthor, the greatest criminal mind of the modern era.
He breaks into this museum in broad daylight without gloves, somehow snips this supposed strongest hair, which should be indestructible, with ease. The bottom of the case clearly falls early, and the alarm is obviously sounded. Genius.
Lex Luthor, the greatest criminal mind of the modern era.
Meanwhile, Christopher Reeve gets given a horrible review of this movie.
We're all very unhappy about it.
So this kid, Jeremy, has basically written Superman a request to sort out the crisis, and he politely declines, but it was then twisted out of context and painting Superman as a bad guy. Yeah, they did this before Spider-Man made it cool.
I know I'm forbidden to interfere.
It's never stopped you before! We are 4 films in! You've never once had an issue with this, but I mean, I guess in part 1 you do have a few seconds of reconsideration, but where the hell was this before? In fact, I have to blame Reeve personally for decisions like this, because in interviews, he disregards this and seems to think it's a real dilemma. He thinks it's clever and he doesn't seem to genuinely remember the first 3 films.
It's nice to see the character take on a global responsibility, even though his father warned him in the first picture not to try and do that.
Well, that's the whole dilemma. Every now and again, eventually you got to throw away the handbook when you see that people need. You know, at what point do you play by the rules, and at what point do you answer the needs of the people around you? I think that's something that people can easily understand.
And that's where we get this scene that everyone has slated and I want to actually defend. So basically, Superman is painted negatively and Clark is now conflicted. He wants to help, but he can't. Lois shows up and Clark just needs somebody to talk to.
You're the only one I can talk to, Lois.
He reveals himself to be Superman and they go off on a flying adventure which is an exact carbon copy and paste from the first film but with worse special effects. And guess what? I actually like this scene and I think it does genuinely make sense. Let's take a look. Clark is depressed, distraught at the situation and basically alone. He can't talk to anyone. He has no family left. He can't exactly talk to planet Krypton anymore. Lois was the first human he truly loved and they still have that special connection. He still remembers her knowing that he's Superman from the second film and they remain close because of it. It makes sense to me that in a fit of loneliness, he would want to feel nostalgic and go back to that. He misses her. He misses that bond they had when she knew. He missed having someone to share this with, so it's perfectly understandable for him to revert back to it. And yes, even reenact a scene and a time when he and Lois were at their closest. I mean, it doesn't explain how Lois actually manages to fly in this version. Come on, there's no doubt about it, she actually flies. But the scene itself makes sense to me and it's a really sweet segment. In fact, everyone bitches about the memory erasing kiss from part 2, but here it's actually explained and everyone just chooses to ignore it.
You don't even know my name.
Kal-El.
You remember, don't you?
I remember everything.
She does remember, but she pretends to forget. Kind of like a repressed memory. It's easier to just forget that she knows who he is to avoid being hurt, to avoid her feelings being destroyed. We've all felt that way at one point. It's easier to put up a front rather than facing your true feelings. The only thing that doesn't make sense and ruins it all is that he kisses her and erases her memory all over again. So now she's forgotten? Or has she? So close, movie. So close to having a great scene.
That's not fair.
So Superman meets with Jeremy and finally decides to address these issues publicly. And the film is so cheap, this was shot out the back of the Milton Keynes train station. No, I'm actually not making that up. They tried to disguise it by just putting a few fire hydrants down so people would think it's New York, but this was actually the Milton Keynes train station. I have visited this location many times before and never realised. In fact, if you're wondering where Rob is right now during this review, he's actually there now. He's investigating this, so ladies and gentlemen, let's cut to Rob Bohr right now on the set of Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. And here we are, actually at the location Superman walked. This is the background. These bike racks weren't always here. In the background behind these, which we'll take you around to now, is like the little underpass that you could see in the background of the shot. We are actually on the set of Superman 4. But how cheap can you be? Well, like, we're talking train station. And then there's loads of bus bays as well. And this is where Superman was filmed. With bike racks, a cheap little crappy underpass here. There's more over here. Wow. In fact, it's immediately followed by a scene that I also can kind of defend to an extent. Here's where Superman sets up the basic plot for the rest of the film, and, well, just listen.
And so I've come to a decision. I'm going to do what our governments have been unwilling or unable to do. Effective immediately, I'm going to rid our planet of all nuclear weapons.
What's the big deal? Why would you need nuclear weapons to defend yourself from nuclear weapons if there are no nuclear weapons? I mean, it's like the whole pro-anti-gun thing, but we're not getting to that again, you know, I'll get loads of hate comments, but at least with guns, I can say some people use them for hunting or target practice. The sole purpose of nuclear weapons is destruction. Why is this such a dumb idea? I think we can all agree nuclear weapons are a no-no. Superman's plan is fine, but the only issue I do have is, why do they need Superman? I mean, they show that the world leaders are all perfectly willing to give him their weapons, so why is he even needed? Why not just get rid of all of them in the first place? And how did they get a net this big anyway? And why don't they explode once they're fired? And wouldn't this mess up the sun? What's going on? Oh well, we return to Gene Hackman and his minions, one of which is actually played by Jim Broadbent, just because. He has to be in everything.
No pain, no gain?
Before Lex relays his master plan to his cronies.
The fact that Superman has ended the arms race. But if we work together, we can make the world safe for war profits. Get to the point,
says the audience.
Behold, my unscrupulous friends. Shut those blinds. The sun is hurting my eyes.
I am the bad guy. Can you tell? I am the bad guy.
I'll introduce him to his first nightmare. A nuclear man. He'll pierce his skin. He'll make him mortal.
How does he know that?
He becomes sick.
How does he know that? So basically they're making up how science works now. They're putting together some chemicals for a super villain, the computer even weaving the entire costume. Yeah, I think the writer flunked biology. The film actually was a lot longer though, because in the original cut, this leads to the first of 2 nuclear men. And basically Superman kicks the crap out of that guy, so Lex goes back to the drawing board and we're then up to this point of the film. Good thing they only kept the essential scenes in this movie, like all of that Smallville crap. That was vital.
Yes.
I also just love how they're trying desperately to make this scene sound intelligent, like it actually makes any lick of sense. Anyway, they hide it in a missile and Lex, you know, the greatest criminal mind on Earth,
Lex Luthor, the greatest criminal mind of the modern era,
prematurely fires it, nearly killing them all, and even laughs about it afterwards.
misses.
Genius! Why is he such an incompetent moron in this? He's meant to be insanely intelligent! The greatest criminal mastermind on Earth, and here he is. Oh, a missile, let's fire right now to almost take our fucking heads off. And then how does this even make Nuclear Man? You just put some chemicals in a box and fire it into a sun? What's going on?
Lex Luthor, the greatest criminal mind of the modern era.
And this is what leads to Nuclear Man literally being born, played by Mark Pillow, who honestly did not deserve this. In the original script, the guy was also supposed to be able to shapeshift and expand in size, but I guess it cost too much money, I don't know. Oh, and they originally asked Christopher Reeve to play the role as like a polar opposite bad Superman.
Intriguing. No. Wait. Boring. Pull off his kneecap!
Meanwhile, Clark does some gymnastics, which is ironic considering how much they're stretching the plot, before we return to Lex, who now has a random mistress for some reason.
Lex, you're speaking me out.
I love Lenny. He's great. Now, before Nuclear Man shows up, it actually is really creepy and eerie. It builds good tension and it is well done, but how exactly is he programmed to return to Lex and obey his orders? And it's just awkward. Even Mark Pillow looks like he's trying not to laugh. And weirdly, he's also voiced by Gene Hackman, but the actor was English, so maybe they didn't like his accent. I have no idea.
I had always, read that you were born over in Europe, so I had always thought, of course, talking to you now, I realize completely wrong, but I'd always thought it was because you had a British accent, and that's why they did it. So
before we ever did any of those scenes, Gene recorded them on tape. So when we shot the scenes with me, when I needed to speak, I was lip syncing to him. So off camera, they would do a 3, 2, 1, and then drop the finger kind of thing. And that look on my face is I'm trying to time my lips to Gene's voice. So instead of what's normally done, where actually if you chose to replace my voice, you would have me do the lines, and then of course take it into the studio and have Gene dub them. But
right, of course.
And to this day, I mean, the director is the governor. I mean, that was his choice, and I didn't question it. I'm not really sure why he made the choice. Maybe he didn't think my voice was appropriate. I don't know. But that's why. I mean, I look at it too, and I can see the look in my eyes that I don't even see anybody. All I can think is 3, 2, 1. Kill or destroy Superman now, whatever it was. So instead of looking like I was thinking for a moment and actually said something, which would have been a lot more interesting to watch.
You have my voice. No, you have my voice. Just remember, I made you.
Yeah, you're just an experiment, freako.
God, who cares? How can anyone hate Lenny?
I made you, I can destroy you. Destroy Superman now. You sweet thing, but not quite yet, no.
Wait, why? You've been waiting years to get your revenge.
Revenge!
On Superman. You've been in prison plotting your revenge, and now you have a chance to kill him, and you're like, nah, we'll wait a bit longer. What is wrong with you? Oh, a Nuclear Man thrives on sunlight. He can't operate without it. It's dumb.
Of course he is.
Meanwhile, we have a double date with Clark and Lacey and Superman and Lois. To be fair, Lois actually comes across as really likeable in this scene. She obviously has a thing for Clark, but still helps him with advice on how to impress Lacey. It's quite well done, but how does nobody notice that Clark and Superman keep vanishing right before the other one shows up? Get a clue! Now that I think about it, because Superman can move like the speed of light, couldn't he technically go so fast that he's both in the same room at the same time? Why does he never try this? I'm just saying.
Nobody's perfect.
Anyway, he has to keep making excuses to leave, usually by distracting the women. Superman even attempts to ruin Lois's dinner at one point. Wow, what a dick. But right here, he rushes past a doorman and changes as he rushes through a car. How the hell did this guy not see that? But it turns out the food isn't ruined, it's perfect, so I guess Soup's somehow had his laser vision set to the exact perfect temperature. But why not pull some superhero powers out of their asses by having him ring the doorbell with his eyes? I will give him credit though, probably improvised, but Clark for some reason answers the phone after he accidentally knocks it over, and it gets me every time.
Oh, sorry. Oh,
no, that's okay. Just leave it there, Clark. Just...
Don't know what it is, but it's great. But they then decide to rip off the first film again, and I can't really defend it this time. Lex gives him a message in Times Square, but if only he can hear him, does that mean everyone else can still see him, but he's silent? Huh? Also, how did he know that Superman will be in that precise location to see him, and how exactly does he make sure that he can hear him? I mean, this was dumb in part 1 as well. All he says is it's at a high frequency so only dogs can hear him. What, or aliens from another planet? What?
This is my nephew, Lenny. He worships me.
The dude of steel.
Okay, I demand a film based on Lenny Luthor alone. It needs to happen. But again, they have ruined Lex Luthor's character. He used to be so intelligent, cunning and daring, and now we get...
I confess, I tricked you.
He sounds like a 7-year-old!
What are you doing back in Metropolis?
Because I want to be the first to introduce you to the new kid on the block.
How did Lex know the exact precise moment that Nuclear Man was going to fly down onto the balcony?
I can only assume you must have hidden a device of some kind in one of those missiles I hurled into the sun.
How the hell did you even put any of that together? It makes no sense.
Lenny! What?
Who cares? Lenny for president. Also, Lex is literally hiding from the law by staying in the Empire State Building. Yeah, no one will ever find you there.
Lex Luthor, the greatest criminal mind of the modern era.
Also, his feet didn't leave imprints earlier like this, but who cares about consistencies at this point? Now, to be fair, I say Mark Pillow doesn't deserve this kind of hate, because genuinely, as an actor, he does a great job with what he's given. The script is garbage, but his performance is actually pretty good. He does come across as really intimidating, and he should have gotten more work after this. All he got was work on a TV project called Alaska Kid, but he's actually pretty good in this film. He's one of the highlights, but this fight is just pathetic. In part 2, Zod, Non and Ursa were threatening. They killed people, wrecked the city, caused destruction. But here, Nuclear Man just comes across as a bit of a dick pulling pranks on Superman. He goes to the Great Wall of China, which is also somehow daylight, and breaks the wall.
In the end, Mexico's going to pay for the wall. I'm just telling you.
These are truly some of the worst green screens I have ever seen, by the way. And Superman creates more bullshit powers by rebuilding the wall with his vision. Originally, it was supposed to be him rebuilding it in super speed, but what a surprise, they ran out of money. And also, these are the exact same shots as him waving to the public, just mirrored. That is a whole new level of lazy and cheap. Then they fight in space. Superman somehow knowing he went there, but all he does is try to grab his ankles like a pussy. Oi, come here, I'm gonna get ya. Before Nuclear Man somehow freezes him. No idea how he got that power. Before flying to Italy, which is also during the day. Some have actually defended this, saying that the fight scene may have taken place over the course of a few hours, but there's no indication that any time has lapsed, so no, it's a mistake.
What?
Nuclear Man flies down into the middle of a volcano. You know, where there wouldn't be any sunlight, so he should be asleep right now. Superman eventually breaks out of the ice, somehow knowing exactly where his enemy went, and fixes the volcanic eruption, and then somehow knows he went back into space. Showing off your nails doesn't automatically make you intimidating. Before they return to the States, which is also daytime. Okay, this just looks hilariously bad. But this is my problem. Nuclear Man isn't killing anyone or even doing anything dangerous. He's just trolling people by wrecking famous landmarks. Oh no, I'm gonna scratch her. You better watch yourself, you. You know, I do love how Superman still has the wherewithal to place the Statue of Liberty back perfectly. That was nice of him. And then, when given the chance, he doesn't even kill Superman. He just kind of kicks him away, and his cape somehow comes off despite it being on when we saw him flying away. How does a scratch even affect him? I mean, I know he's nuclear, but isn't Superman completely impervious to pain unless it's kryptonite?
Stuff it!
But on a bizarre coincidence, Clark Kent is also feeling a bit under the weather. And in another weird moment, Lois seems to hint that she does know that he's Superman after all.
Well, if he can't manage, and if he really is in trouble, then there's a few things I'd like to tell him. I tell him that I will always cherish the time we spent together.
So is she pretending to not know again? Because at this point, after revealing that she did know, it makes no sense and is entirely pointless. And if she doesn't know, how does she or no one else put the connection together that Clark and Superman are both sick or missing at the same goddamn time? Oh look, Lex's friends are back. By the way, they have entirely no purpose in this entire movie. He shows off Nuclear Man, they leave, but why does Nuclear Man even obey Lex? There is literally no reason. Oh well, Clark uses the not-so-last crystal to heal himself off screen. Another thing that everyone bitches about, even though Superman 2 did the exact same thing. Like, it's not even changed. It is literally the exact same thing. Okay, this is ridiculous. Have we entered a Bee Gees music video? Oh, and he spots a newspaper article with Lacey on it and he seems infatuated with her. This was because in the original cut, the first Nuclear Man actually fell in love with Lacey and it got passed on to this one. However, that scene was cut out. So, keeping it in this cut makes no sense.
Where is the woman?
Give it up, you'll never find her.
How does he know who he means?
If you will not tell me, I will hurt people.
Well, it's about time! You haven't hurt anyone yet! And also, a supervillain just said that line. Soups, you may wanna, actually do something.
Don't do it, the people!
But hey, you don't want to mess with Nuclear Man because he can rewind footage and flip guys around. What is he even doing? He's just being a dick. Do something and kill a person.
That's enough. You win. I'll take you to her.
Why does he even need Superman to find Lacey? He can find anything else. And for some reason, the elevator takes them to the Empire State Building, despite it being a completely different building a minute ago. A decent screenplay doesn't cost you a penny, guys. I'm just saying, you can't keep blaming it on the budget.
They'll never change.
So Superman drags the lift into space and just leaves him on the moon. Yep, that is his solution. Not to kill him, not to take him to the Fortress of Solitude and kill him like he did with Zod, not even to reverse the world to before this happened, but to just leave him there and hope he goes away. Our hero.
I'm sure he'll do the right thing.
But one tiny slither of sunlight creeps in and awakens the beast within before we get the most tedious scene in the entire movie. This is the drama, ladies and gentlemen. Nuclear Man trying desperately to scratch Superman. This is the intense fight scene of the movie. Are you kidding me? This is the climax, guys! And then, straight out of a Wile E. Coyote cartoon, Nuclear Man actually buries Superman and just leaves him there. He then heads off and finds Lacey instantly, so he really didn't need Superman after all, before the Man of Steel re-emerges and even takes time to fix the American flag. Yeah, this guy's priorities are a bit disturbed.
I hope not.
Before Nuclear Man drags Lacey into space, where she is actually able to breathe. She is human, right? She's human, and she can breathe in space. Okay? Now, everyone's made fun of this, but I can't let this slide, because it's not even that someone is dumb enough to write this, right? Maybe someone failed science, and they wrote this scene down thinking it would look cool. Fine! If someone's dumb enough to write this down, that's fine, but the amount of writers this film had, it had more than one writers, one of which was Christopher Reeve, and then it went through a studio. No one corrected this. The script was sent out to actors. No one said, hey guys, look at this. You can't breathe, you can't breathe it. And then it went to the director. It was producers. It was filmed. No one doing sound. None of the extras. No one doing the lighting. No, not even the fucking floor manager on set. Not the cleaner. No one in the actual fucking studio stepped in and said, hey, I don't know if you know about this, you moron, but you can't breathe in space. And then even when it was shot, none of the editors said anything. None of the distributors, no one working at any point in this film stepped in. And this has made me give up hope for the human race. And then Superman completely endangers the entire world by moving the goddamn moon in front of the sun, probably causing numerous tsunamis on Earth, but who gives a damn? And some have actually defended this, saying that, oh no, it could have been a crater or a comet or something that he moved. But there's no indication that it's not the moon, so stop pulling it out your asses. It was the goddamn moon.
Do you know that in a Superman film, not one person dies? Not one person dies.
Anyway, he then drags Lacey back to Earth to remind us that she is in fact human and humans can't breathe in space! He drags the dormant nuclear man to a nuclear power plant to kill him, which should make him stronger, whatever. Before the Daily Planet buys himself back, because apparently we still give a shit about that subplot.
And there will be peace. There will be peace when the people of the world want it so badly that their governments will have no choice but to give it to them.
Now, everyone obviously craps on this speech because Superman's saying we just didn't want peace hard enough. But, this is actually a real speech by Dwight Eisenhower. So, you're all calling him dumb, aren't you? Well, that's just rude. And also, how did they not want it? They gave up their weapons instantly. Nuclear Man literally changed, nothing to do with the nuclear weapon subplot. Nothing has changed.
Just one thing. How did you beat him?
High school physics, Luther. While I was recuperating, I had time to figure out that if your foul creature was born from the sun, that had to be a source of energy.
That really doesn't even explain how you stopped him, but who cares? It's the end! Superman 4: The Quest for Shit is truly an abomination! I do like some of the stuff with Lois and Clark. Mark Pillow tries his best, and Lenny Luthor genuinely is hilarious, but it's still a mess. Loads of subplots, but unlike its predecessor, they go nowhere. Plot holes are everywhere, none of it makes sense. I can tell with the original idea it was written with their hearts in the right place, but it's just a botched idea. The budget wasn't the problem because films have been done with less and were much better. The script was the issue. It's just a mess, and although some things are unfairly criticised despite the first two films doing it, it does deserve its hate and it does belong on the list of worst comic book films ever made. It's just awful.